All right. Dear Scout brothers and sisters, good afternoon to you all, and you are very welcome to the session. For this session, we are so happy that we have a good time to share about the information on energy and environmental sustainability. And this time, we are so happy that apart from me, I'm Ivan from Hong Kong, and Leonardo from Costa Rica, and two more guest speakers. Let us introduce to you later. But before we proceed, we have to express our sincere thanks to the OCL supporters, and we have one more reporter. Without their support, we can't have a successful presentation here. So thank you very much to them. And before we start, shall we ask every participants to coming out and then introduce yourself to the floor, because we have simultaneous, all the presentation will be online. So you better come out and introduce yourself, let everybody knows. Maybe we can have some input on web so that we can have a bigger opportunity to share with others. Who would like to come first? Thank you, Ada. Now talk to the mic.
Thank you.
Stand here. Face
Thank
the
you.
camera.
I'm Anna. I'm coming from Hong Kong. I'm a fund leader from a scout group.
Thank you. Next one, please. Thank you.
Here?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
I'm from Scouts of China, Taiwan, and my name is Stephen Huang Daoping, and I'm the Deputy Director of our WSEC environment
Thank you,
program.
Mr. Kwan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next one. Nigel.
Thank you. My name is Nigel, come from Hong Kong, and then is as a training headquarter commissioner for the leader training.
Thank you, Nigel. One more.
Thank you. Victor Kok from Hong Kong. I'm the headquarter commissioner responsible for the extension scouting. Thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome here.
Hello, my name is Kati, and I'm from Luxembourg, and I'm a permanent worker at the Luxembourgish Scouts.
Thank you. Yes, please. Two ladies.
Hello, everybody. I'm Betty Chen. I'm delighted to be invited to this Congress. I'm from WWF Hong Kong. I'm responsible for fundraising as well as marketing and also communications for the WWF Hong Kong.
Thank you so much. From WWF.
Hi, everybody. Another Panda person. I'm Nicole Wong from WWF Hong Kong. I'm in charge of all the Hong Kong and South China education program, and also work with a lot of the youth community and youth leader training program. So nice to meet with all of you, and really look forward for the future opportunity to work with you on youth program.
Good. Thank you, Nicole. One more gentleman.
Thank you very much. My name is Matthias Farborg. I am the chairman of the International External Relations Committee of the Danish Scout Association.
Thank you so much. Will you mind? Yes, please. Two guest speakers. Come on. Yeah, the ladies first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amelie. I'm from Manila, Philippines. I work with Greenpeace, and I'm going to present something today on a solar challenge badge that we are now promoting with WOSM.
Thank you. And the gentleman?
Hi, I'm Reuben Sessa from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and I'm the youth focal point for the organization.
Thank you. I think you agree with me that we have experts, scouters from all over the world, from regions, so that it could be a very global sharing among ourselves on energy and environmental sustainability. We prepare a lot of information to share with you. I think Leonardo will share his presentation with you first, and then we can have a good time share among ourselves. Thank you so much for your patience. Leonardo.
Okay, thank you for being here. I think this is a very good opportunity for share our spirit as scouts for trying to preserve the earth And mainly, very quick, this is the 5 objectives that we expect to try to accomplish today. And it is very important, there is a lot of people that streaming, just they're watching now all this presentation. So I think some of you are already famous around the world. So just when you walk outside, just be careful, because probably people will try to make a for autograph or something for you, okay? So basically, we are going to talk about, and give you some very small examples about what Scouting has been doing since last years about environment, specifically energy and environmental sustainability. And also we will have like 2 very important presentations from Greenpeace and also from the FAO, United Nations way, and how we can learn more about it, how we can extend our mind. And after that, all the participants will have the opportunity to work in small groups for try to accomplish some questions that it is very important for us to get that information, because that information will be considered for the future plans of our organization, of WOSM, in terms of energy and environmental issues. So that's the main goal for us today, okay? So just, this is like a very brief defining of environmental sustainability that is defined by the United Nations in 2005. So this is how the world has been trying to move all the efforts focus in this area, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their needs, which is very important. Every time we are more and more and more people, and compensates keeping population densities below the carrying capacity of a region, facilitating the renewal of renewable resources, conserving and establishing priorities for use of the non-renewable resources, and keeping environmental impact below the level required to allow affected systems to recover and continue to evolve. Environmental sustainability can be viewed as a balancing the 3 pillars of economic, social development with environmental protection, okay? And this is the goal that we are going to be focused today. Basically, it's Millennium Goal Development number 7, about try to ensure the environmental sustainability. And this is the principles that are giving the strength to this very important issue, which are integrate the principles of sustainable development into countries' policies, which is very important, because sometimes there is a lot of very good efforts from National Scout associations, in our case, or NGOs. But at the end, we need to have the support of the government for try to have that support in common in mutual cooperation. Because from our point of view and my point of view, I think the non-governmental organizations are who move in the society. And we need to help the governments to try to create a better society. Reduced biodiversity loss, achieving by 2010 a significant reduction of the rate of the loss. Halved by 2015, which is like a tomorrow, the proportion of the population without sustainable access to safe drinking water and basic sanitation. I think those that are interested in these issues, when we have the chance to read a lot of news around the world, so we are now feeling that. Every time there is less and less people that have the possibility to drink water, basically. And sometimes when we, as citizens in our houses, we have a lot of water, sometimes we are not using it in the most wisely way. So every time that we waste water, so we are taking the water from someone around the world. It is very important to keep in mind. Achieved by 2020, a significant improvement in the lives of at least 100 million slums users. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some small examples that probably some of you already know about what WOSM has been doing in the past, that is try to educate our youth and try to transform them in like a very active citizens related to environment. Okay, since we had problems, okay? So as the beginning to introduce what WOSM has been doing, we have like a Discover the World project or program that many National Scout Associations has been implemented since 2005. This program was developed for the youth between 18 to 25 to try to promote them, to try to encourage them to be active citizens in their communities and educate themselves, which is very important. And the main goal of this was based on community service and international cooperation, which is something that it's very important now. We have many experiences around the world, but sometimes problems that affect some people, let's say in Taiwan, could be the same problems that are affecting in Costa Rica, but maybe in Taiwan already have something for that. So it's very important. So this Scout the World project was trying to share all the experiences from the scouts around the world. And the other program is the World Scout Environmental Program that is more about tools that, like educative programs that can implement in the youth program that is running every Saturday or every Sunday for all our units. And all our scout leaders have the opportunity also to learn and educate our kids. And also this is connected about the Scout Centers of Excellence for Nature and Environment. This is a very interesting initiative that has been promoted by WOSM, that every National Scout Association has the opportunity to create their own scenes, which will be a fantastic opportunity for try to take our scouts to camping or just for have a day visit and have the opportunity to learn how they can learn about the environment and how they can help and support and be like a good scouts. Because when you have the opportunity to read the books from Baden-Powell, since the foundation of the Scout movement, the nature has been deeply connected in every action. My responsibility and how we can see the nature as my friend, as my mother. So this is something that has been implicit in our program for more than 100 years. And now the society demands that as a Scout, we should be more active, and we really need to be more proactive in all the process. And we are almost ready to jump to the energy process, but I have a very quick question. How many of you have changed your cell phone in the last 4 years? Okay, please raise your hands that has been changed your cell phone at least 2 times in the last 4 years. Okay, in the last 3 years? The last 1 year? Okay, so just imagine this is a small exercise with millions of people around the world. So sometimes people get excited that we really need to have the last, the most nicer and cool cell phone. That is probably doing the same. But just think about all the energy has been using for making the product and after that for the promotion. And all the time that the people are spending when they need to go and move for their houses, to go to the shopping centers to try to buy the new ones. And once they're back. Probably some of these new devices has less consumption of energy, could be. But I think at the end, the effect of the impact in the society in terms of use the energy, it's very important. Okay? So you can keep your regular cell phone for the next 3 years. Okay, no problem. Okay, so the other 2 programs that has been recently launched is the Messengers of Peace projects. That is related to projects around the world where the scouts have the opportunity to develop projects related to human rights, peace, but also environment. And until today, we have millions of hours around the world that our youth has been trying to create in a better world, but also try to promote the peace. Because we saw at the beginning that there is 3 pillars of the sustainable development, and one of them is environment. So it's very important that we try to encourage our scouts to be part of these projects. So we need to try to give them the opportunity to be active and in their society. And I'm just posted this COP19 because I don't know if you know, but WOSM as organization has a representative that normally participated in these projects. Dr. Reuben, that just arrived today in the morning from Warsaw, he was participating in that, and around 20 youth from different parts of the world was representing WOSM and taking part in different side events and participating in the plenarium and have the opportunity to see the world around that. In that occasion, so every COP meeting, we had the possibility to send youth that they will have a different vision of the world. That at the end, we expect they learn from that, they have a different perspective, and also try to have a different spirit, and try to use that spirit for help the organization to move forward to promote different kind of projects, and also for try to be part of the real action in the society. So basically, we have many programs and that has been developed with this, but we would like to show that for that 3 at least, and because the other one is just a process of that. But it is important just to remind that as a scout, we are responsible for our nature, and not just because we are wearing our scarf, it's just because in our houses, so we are trying to use the water in the most wisely way. Okay? So now I would like to invite Amelie from Greenpeace, which is going to make a very good presentation about some project that has been developed some months ago. And so it's a cooperation that WOSM wants to set very strong with Greenpeace. So I would like to ask you to come here, and all yours.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. Okay, before I proceed, I'd like to introduce myself. There have been some friends that weren't here in the beginning when we had the introductions. My name is Amelie. I'm from Manila, Philippines. I work with Greenpeace for the Southeast Asia office. And what I do is that I usually work on climate and energy policy in the region. There is a story behind how the Solar Challenge badge of Greenpeace has been conceptualized, which I would share in a bit. But first, not a lot of people really know who Greenpeace is. And those who do usually don't have a very positive impression of the organization that I belong to. So it is an international environmental organization. If you see people hanging around buildings with huge banners, that's who we are, because we are mainly an activist protest organization. The other side of our work is something that not a lot of people know, and that is the solutions package. So we are 2.9 million supporters worldwide. We do not accept funding from governments, corporations, and even political parties. And so our financial independence is really because of the 2.9 million supporters who donate to us on a regular basis. We were founded in 1971, and currently we have a presence in 42 countries all across the continents. And our campaigns on climate and energy, sustainable agriculture, and genetically engineered crops, forest, oceans, toxic nuclear disarmament, and peace. And below is our mission. Okay, so how did the Solar Challenge badge actually started? Leonardo mentioned that this was conceptualized just a few months ago. So early this year, I was sent on a very personal leadership journey, and part of that journey was a challenge that I had to develop for myself that would have some global significance. Okay, so it was a challenge thrown at me in order to fulfill the requirements of the leadership program where I was at. And so because it felt so overwhelming to me, I decided that I wanted, if I was going to propose something, it was going to be something that was close to my heart, that would give me the motivation and the drive to do it. And the Solar Challenge badge is really an inspiration. It is a result of a conversation that I had with my 9-year-old son. He knew that I was working with renewable energy. He's a scout, a little boy, so he's only a Cub Scout now. He's looking forward to next year when he becomes a full Boy Scout. And he said to me, I want to learn how to use or how to work with renewable energy, but I want to be recognized for it. Why isn't there a badge for skills or proficiency in renewable energy? And that gave birth to an idea which started only in February. Now, why Scouts? The talk this morning given by Chris Lonsdale, set the perfect tone that if you have a problem, you find a creative solution, and then you find the resources to be able for you to find that solution. And so this project seemed overwhelming to me, and I had to go around the organization to find out what resources were available to me. And lo and behold, I was linked with our Swiss office, who had a wealth of experience working with Scouts that I didn't know before, that I didn't know existed because it wasn't shared. It wasn't really documented in a way that, that tells us what best practices were or what the challenges were at the same time. So we're working with Scouts, and that's how we began working with Scouts. So actually this slide should go after the next slide. So why are we focusing on solar energy? We know the problem of climate change is already upon us. I come from the Philippines. My country has been battered by Typhoon Haiyan, and there is very direct attribution of this particular typhoon to increased temperatures across the warm waters of the Pacific. And really, in a lot of bodies, it's recognized that the future, if we are at all to save the problem of climate change, the future is renewables. But why are we focusing on solar energy for this particular project? It's because solar is the most appropriate, it's the most practical. On a scalable basis, you can make it as small as you want to as big as you want, and it really depends on how you want to use it. And of course, there's no place on this earth that doesn't have sunshine at least a few hours in a day, right? So all of us each have a share of a little bit of sunshine, and that's what we want to utilize. And then for some of you who know Greenpeace, you know that in the previous years, our campaigns have been framed negatively. There's always no nukes, no coal. You see these people hanging down buildings. And over the years, there have been a cultural change that we cannot just keep on saying no to something. There must be something we're also saying yes to. And this year, a solutions task force was created within the organization, essentially just to provide a portfolio of solutions-based campaigning. And I'm part of that Global Solutions Task Force. But why solar for Scouts? Why Scouts in particular? Well, we looked at, first and foremost, I would like to give recognition where recognition is due. When we had the initial discussions with WOSM, they said, there is a perfect model. There is a perfect template for this kind of challenge badge. And he gave us a copy of the Water Challenge badge of the FAO. And that is how we are now making use of it as a pattern to adapt to the Solar Challenge badge. It does work in accordance with the World Scout Environmental Program. We hear this all the time. This is the platform where the education for Scouts are based on. It's also in accordance with the goals of the Scenes Center. And we have to recognize that the Scouting movement is one of the biggest, if not the largest, movement in the world. Almost 30 million Scouts from all over the world, and that is a huge, huge thing. They represent the young generation today, but in a few years, they will become the leaders. And so it is really important that we find ways by which we can work together to address problems of climate change. And then, of course, solar is good for practical work. It's short-term, if you want it to be, but it also yields very positive results, and it leads to concrete results. And it's a way as well to encourage young children to go into this kind of job as a form of providing work for the young. Okay, so what is the Solar Challenge badge? What we're now trying to work on is that the scouting movement and the Scouts in general will go solar, and that Greenpeace will support the rollout of this program. And by support, that means the training of the trainers, very limited funding. It is a very attractive program. It does attract, some major funders. It's energy-oriented. It's training experience. Kids and students are already out in the campsite, and that's where learning by doing is best experienced. And between Greenpeace and WOSM, or the Scouting movement in general, we do have a common goal, and it's to involve, to empower, to educate, to encourage young people to participate in active citizenship, right? Nation building, community building, that's all part of the work, part of the solution to climate change. So what has happened until now? Remember, the idea just came about formally, officially in February, but again, as I said, when I looked around for resources within the organization, I discovered that our Swiss office have already conducted 12 projects in Switzerland, and they do have this wealth of experience. And they have begun solar installations in Scout centers. At the Kandersteg International Scout Center, solar workshops have been running since 2009, and Greenpeace Switzerland was one of the organizations that is running that. The draft handbook, a handbook very similar to this one, which we patterned after this one, is currently being drafted. It's in the second revision. And the activities for the badge, the earning of the badge, have already been tested in Kenya, in Mexico, and South Africa. And as I said, the solar workshops have started way back in Kandersteg since 2009, but we also tested the workshop at the 2011 Jamboree in Sweden. We installed a solar system at the Rowolan Camp Center in Kenya as a result of this program. And because of all that experience, we are now beginning to officialize and formalize this flagship project beginning 2013. So what are the elements of the project? So we have a range of age-appropriate activities for kids, Scouts, and then the Rovers, the older Scouts. We have the workshops. We have the solar boxes. The solar boxes are the kits that are being left behind in the Scene Center. That's permanently put there, and I'll show you some of the photos. Light tower projects are the installations, maybe in Scene Centers or maybe in a community that a troop is working with. We're trying to develop an iconic gadget that will allow people to see immediately that the Scouts have gone solar. And then, of course, it's tied to the scene, and then there's the handbook. Now, for the currently, these are the major partners. WAGs is still in a question mark because we are still in the process of talking to them. It hasn't been officially recognized. It hasn't been formalized, unlike WOSM. KISS, because they have been a partner since 2009. Sol Africa is a non-government organization as well, based in Bern, but they do have projects, and they are the ones providing us with all the gadgets and the tools, solar gadgets and tools. The Boy Scouts of the Philippines was chosen as the flagship, and currently WOSM, and then WOSM and Greenpeace, of course. So the activities for the Solar Challenge Badge, I'll show you photos in a bit, but each activity, the whole workshop, can last from half an hour to several hours, at most 2 hours. It does encourage active participation, and there's a certain level of proficiency for the scouts to be able to obtain the badge. And as I said, though there are age-appropriate activities, and those designs are just proposals. Of course, the NSAs or the local groups or the local youth group would be in a best position to determine what design they would want to adapt. So this was the solar workshop conducted in Kisk this year. There I am in the side. So what it is that it's a series of small 3 to 10 minute stations. You have all these different stations, and for each station, you go through an exercise that allows you to learn by doing what renewable energy, and in particular solar energy, is all about. And the Scout Center is the perfect place because the kids are already there, the Scout leaders are there, and it's very easy to conduct one-on-one workshops. Okay, so this is the starter kit. The big one on my left, which is on your right, is what remains in the Scene Center or in the Scout Center. That's permanent. The big parabola over there is a cooker. We use it to bake brownies, cookies. We use it to pop corn. So while the workshops are, when we begin the workshop, you put the popcorn there, and they go through the whole station, and at the end of the workshop, the kids eat the popcorn that they've cooked using solar energy. And these are the toys that we have. It's simply to show the difference between direct energy and stored energy. And I mentioned earlier that we are in the process of developing a prototype for an iconic gadget that Scouts can use as a way to be the bearers of the message. So we're thinking some of the ideas that we've received so far are solar torch, a solar campfire. I'm not sure because campfire is really a social thing in the Scouting movement, but this idea surfaced. A solar tent, mobile camp solar set. The mobile camp solar set came out of the experience in the Philippines when the typhoon struck. 5 days after the typhoon, there was no power, and immediately some unofficially members of the Greenpeace office went out and delivered portable solar power so that people can charge their cell phones and connect to loved ones and let people know that they were okay and that they survived. So I'm here, of course, to collect other ideas of what you can think of in terms of what an iconic gadget could look like, and Sol Africa will be able, is in a position to develop that prototype. And then this is an example of the light tower project that we conducted at the Rowland Scout Center in Kenya. And as I said, teaching and equipping young leaders about solar energy could be a stepping stone towards a future and career path that they can take on. And these are some of the activities that we've done in Mexico. They're cooking some cookies during one of the camps. This was an example of the activities. Some of the stations during the workshop at the 2011 country in Sweden. And they're cooking again. This is the solar tent. So during the day, our solar panel charges, our lamps, and then in the evening we have the rechargeable lamps working for us. So this was at KISK early this summer. And so the project, what is the project? It's a flagship. The Philippines has been chosen as a flagship, and rollout is expected in the next couple of years. There is a steering committee. WOSM is represented in the steering committee. KISK workshops, iconic gadgets, train the trainer. There is already a committed funding for the pilot, and there is a hope that the badge can be globally and publicly launched at the 2015 Jamboree in Japan. And I was already able to speak with Mari, and she extended that invitation to do the workshops as well in Japan. So while the pilot project is assured, the follow-up and participation of other NSOs in the next couple of months is still being developed. But if you are interested, what can you do? If you find in July 2014 next year, which is the summer in the Europe side, it's unlike our summer in the Asian continent, there will be workshops and trainings at KISK. So if you're interested, find a way to send your key scout leaders at KISK in 2014 or 2015. And the only commitment is that you are willing to start or at least to test the Solar Challenge badge. And then if you do testing, please let us know your feedback when you use your gadgets, when you use the handbook, and when you use the solar starter kit. The scene centers are essentially a venue where training of trainers can happen. Workshops can also be conducted there. Solar installations and other ideas I'm very much open to hearing. And this is what we did in Kenya. So thank you very much. I'm sorry I ran out of business cards, but here's my contact information. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we will have, thank you very much. We will have the next presentation. We just need 30 seconds to set some things here. So, one moment, please. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Reuben Sessa, who is going to give us another explanation about energy and also about the Youth and United Nations Global Alliance, which is very important for this process. So.
Okay, so thank you everybody for that. I'm going to give you a quick presentation first on like the impacts, but also then on the resources that are available for scouts that we've developed. So this is actually me in the middle there. So this is how it all started. This is how it all started when I was 6. So I started scouts as a cub, and then I went through as a scout rover, and then for 16 years I was a leader. And then after my PhD, by chance I ended up in the United Nations. And I thought, when I was in the United Nations, I thought, this is crazy. Like, the UN is so close to, like, you know, what scouts are trying to achieve, but the links are so poor. So, like, let's say in my spare time, when in the UN, I created what was called the Youth and United Nations Global Alliance, which was a mechanism of all the UN agencies working together to work more closely with youth organizations and so forth. So this started, let's say, 5 years ago. So we were actually quite lucky because we straight away got some interest from Sweden. So Sweden provided us with a very small budget the first 2 years. And that was like a pilot, and they were then happy on what happened in the first 2 years, and then they gave us quite, let's say, quite a big like funding for the next 3 years. So I'm going to look at environmental impacts a bit from the ag side, because it's an interesting challenge, because we have to we have a growing population, which is going to reach 9 billion by 2050. And FAO has calculated that to meet this demand of a growing population, in theory, we should increase food production by 60%. But the way we're actually doing agriculture at the moment is like quite polluting and is degrading the lands. So, you know, like we have that challenge that you can't just be environmentally friendly or stop business, but you have to carry on business, actually increase business, but actually have less an impact on the environment. So that's the challenge that FAO faces when it supports its member countries. So like just a few stats, like as was mentioned before, like there's actually very little fresh water, and actually 70% of that fresh water is used in agriculture. So we have actually quite a big, let's say, impact on water consumption at the country level. And of course, with climate change, there's some countries which just can't afford to use all that water that's being used at the moment. Other impacts of agriculture. Actually, agriculture is the main probably driver of deforestation. Like agriculture is like encroaching in like sort of like areas of like natural beauty and so forth, just because like people need to expand. So at the moment, like 38% of the total land surface is actual agriculture. So if you think about it, like when you have like all like deserts, high mountain ranges, and you take all the ones that aren't suitable for agriculture, you actually realize the land that is suitable is quite a lot of it is agriculture. And this is just like a quick stats showing like how much of the land's actually degraded. So we actually have like twice the size of Russia is degraded land, which cannot produce like the way it did in the past. And of course, like agriculture and food production also has a huge impact on greenhouse gas emissions. So if we consider that agriculture is one of the main drivers of deforestation, probably the total impact is about 30%, like the greenhouse gas emissions. So here's just a quick graphic showing like the agriculture sector, forestry, energy on emissions. So like energy also is quite an area where ag and food production, if you think of like all the storage, packaging, processing, so forth, a lot of energy gets used. Of course, one of the big debates at the UNFCCC is that the countries that are going to be impacted the most by climate change are the ones that actually contributed the less. So as you can see, like Africa region has like had very little emissions, but it's actually the region that's going to be hit the most. And then going back to the issue I said before, the problem is that we can't stop production. Like we have to actually increase, and 1 in 3 people in the world actually work in agriculture. So it's actually a livelihood for a lot of people. So, well, just briefly, one of the approaches that FAO is like adopting is climate smart agriculture, where it actually, climate smart agriculture has like 3 main pillars. So it's intensifying production, but intensifying does not mean using like external inputs. It means producing more on the same area of land, but with less inputs. So using like more natural, organic ways of recycling and so forth from other systems into the like croplands, and reducing fertilizer use, pesticide use, and so forth that have very high energy consumption. The second pillar is building resilience to climate change. And the last pillar is actually reducing the impacts on the environment and in emissions. So that was a bit of like, let's say, the background. So now we get to the more, let's say, interesting part. So what is FAO doing with young people in regard to these issues? Well, 5 years ago, with UNFCCC, we actually created a mechanism to allow youth to have a voice in the negotiations. Before, like, youth could maybe get inside to the negotiations, but they had no voice. So now youth have what we call observer status, which is actually the same status as FAO. So FAO and youth actually have the same like ranking in a way as so what does that mean? It means that they can actually make technical submissions, they can actually make interventions in plenary, and they can actually be involved in the negotiations. So since this has been created, one of the great things that youth have been doing is been pushing for what we call Article 6 in the convention. So Article 6 is all about education, training, and public awareness. Now before this, Article 6 was like practically forgotten. It was there, but very little work was done on it. And I have to say, like through WAGs and WOSM and other youth groups, there was a heavy participation and let's say negotiations in the corridors. I have to say the youth also infiltrated a lot of the delegations. So there was, for example, Norway, France, and other delegations which had young people in there. And last year they actually managed to create a work program in Doha on Article 6. And it was probably the only thing that was achieved last year. So it's a great achievement. It actually shows what an impact youth can make if you just give them the opportunities. Another thing that we've been doing quite a lot is participation in campaigns, blogs. For example, these are the ones that have been done by UNEP. So we work very closely with the other agencies on environmental issues, and we heavily involve young people in these sort of campaigns, ads, and action on the ground. And then another sort of a main area of the younger program is on education. And we have various levels of education. So one is what we call the Challenge Badge series. Here I have 9 of them, but now we're actually up to 12. And then I hope we finish at 12. because at the moment we've spent a lot of energy producing them, but we want to then concentrate a little more on the distribution and capacity building and so forth. So the ones that aren't on there, there's for example now one also on governance, because there's a lot of requests for a badge on governance. And all these badges will be finished by the middle of next year. So the English version will be finished, and then we'll have the other languages. So it's also been translated into Spanish, French, Arabic, Chinese, Russian, and Italian. So we produce it in 7 languages. So the challenge badges, as my colleague in Greenpeace described, is a way of we provide the technical information, then we provide the motivation, and then we provide the ability for young people to take action on the ground. So let's say the 3 main steps of these badges. So I'll just go through a couple of them. This was actually the first one, the Climate Change Challenge Badge, which was originally launched maybe 4 years ago. So this has now probably been actually finished by... It's very hard to guess how many people have actually done it, because you don't always get the feedback, but at least 20,000 young people have finished it, but it's probably quite a large underestimate, because when we talk with scout groups, we also often find that they've translated it into their language, they been working at the national scale, but we don't normally get the information. One of the challenge badges which is just about to come out, which is quite an interesting challenge badge, is the Nutrition Challenge Badge. The interesting thing about the Nutrition Challenge Badge is not only does it go through how to do a balanced nutrition, but it also has a whole section on sustainable diets. So that will teach kids on how to buy sustainably, how to cook, store, and then reuse food elements. So going through the whole chain of how to be sustainable. So it'll be a grid. So they have all the things that they need to consider, the packaging, the amount of energy that's used, where it's come from, and they will have all the parameters, but they'll have to do the calculations themselves, because wherever you are in the world, for example in Ireland, water is probably not going to be an issue because it rains every day. But we give them the matrix to let them calculate how to do it, let's say. And then another educational series we also do is these youth guides. And the youth guides is a more substantive book, and it goes through everything that you need to know on biodiversity, but also like how to get involved in your communities, how to preserve biodiversity and so forth. And like all the materials are actually done with like various partners. So like I think this biodiversity guide was like more than 20 institutes or something like that. And the great advantage is that when it comes to implementation, then there's like a very large like outreach. For example, we just launched the Water Challenge badge, and within 2 weeks it was already being used for 10,000 students in Spain, the whole of the Scout Association in Madagascar, the Scout Association in Costa Rica, the whole Caribbean region. They're using it for UN water educational programs. So you see, it's like if you get the partnership right, the product also like flies quite substantially. And this is just like some internal pages to the biodiversity guide. Now another area of work that we do is like we actually provide also technical support to youth organizations. So for example, we have what we call this Junior Farm and Field and Life Skills, which teaches young people how to like grow, like process, and like even market their food that they grow, but also some important life skill elements like, you know, health and so forth. And this has been done mainly with government organizations. And like here's just like some examples of additional curricula that we've developed under Younger for this program. So on climate change, disaster risk reduction, community seed banks, beekeeping, micro gardens and so forth. And these materials are now being used to support the WOSM program, which is called like Grow for Life in the Africa region. So like at the moment we're like training like over 1,140 scouts to actually develop like agricultural and community gardens in their local communities. Additional resources that we have is like for young people who want to stay in agriculture. We've produced a source book which provides a whole like it's like a step-by-step guide plus examples of how to access land, finance, markets, green jobs and so forth. So it's quite a comprehensive guide which has been like undertaken like between FAO and another 3 or 4 UN agencies. So like this is like our other little, let's say, baby, let's say. Some time ago, probably because I come from England and I actually did the Duke of Edinburgh Award. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but it's like a national program of like self-development and so forth. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if the UN had like a Duke of Edinburgh type sort of scheme, but mainly on global citizenship. So we've been working with the UN Secretary General and his Special Envoy on creating a global citizenship award, which like all young people can actually do in their countries, and then be recognized for the contribution they've done to society. And this gives you like just some of the areas that the young people would actually have to do to complete the award. So it just gives you a brief overview. Now, another little work that we do under this phase, and we might have like new funding, like if there's a new phase in 6 months' time, is what we call these mini grants. So we actually give Scout and Girl Guide groups like small grants to do like community projects on climate change and food security. So what normally happens is like we put out a bid, and then like saying like these like small grants are available, and the Scouts propose their their projects they're going to do in their local communities, and then like the best ones get selected and receive the funds. And then they also get, because FAO also has country offices in every country, and like the country offices then normally technically support the Scouts in implementing their little projects, let's say. And it's a really, I mean, I really like this scheme because like you put the money directly into the local community and they can do so much with that little money. Well, if you know like the normal way of schemes where you send the money down to like, I know, the government, and the government sends it down, and then by the time it gets to the person, like all the transaction costs, there's like nothing left. But this is like direct, you know, like you get every cent is well spent on these projects. Now, all this work we do is like we're always trying to actually get change and behavior. Like this is like what we want to, like especially with these challenge badges, we want like young people to be more aware, take action, so forth. So we actually did an analysis. We actually looked at all the journal, let's say, articles that actually looked at where they've actually done projects and then analysed if they actually got a change in behaviour. Actually, there's not that many of them. It's actually quite hard to find the hard evidence. But we've gone through the whole thing and we've actually produced a paper which comes with recommendations on how to improve impact on the education that you produce. And that feedback from this process and from like the pilot studies have gone back into our like resources, and we've modified the resources to meet like what's been coming out of this analysis and work. Okay, so those were the products, and then what we have is like national programs. So what we do at the national program is like we involve a lot of like the big players, and then together they like develop a single project. So like actually one of our best examples is actually in Costa Rica, because we actually brought together the Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Agriculture, and our FAO country office, and some of like the big like CBD and so forth. And we specifically asked them involve the Scouts and other big youth organizations. And together they developed, actually based on the biodiversity curriculum, a curriculum for the country. And now they're implementing it with all the youth groups and the schools. And the great thing is because you're working with all the different ministries and the different groups, you practically get like full coverage. And for example, like the Ministry of Education also has like a yearly TV program every year, like a talent show. And on the talent show, they promoted this initiative. And FAO and Jung also has what we call like Goodwill Ambassadors. So it's like famous people. So for Costa Rica, we have Debbie Nova and Percance, who's a band. And actually, they actually promoted the initiative. Like they went around all the schools. So it was like, you can imagine like these personalities going around all the schools. It was like, you know, they even done like little video of all the kids like, ah. So it's like, you know, like it's a full like scale approach. You really like then cover the whole country. Then FAO coordination, we also have like staff in each country office that's been nominated to be a youth focal point. And these staff are meant to help with whatever youth activity comes up, and like also help when like for example WOSM is interested in a particular activity, we connect them up with that focal point. And then the last one is we also have a UN coordinated mechanism on youth. So all the agencies in the UN system has a focal point, so I'm the one for FAO, and we actually work together on coordinated programs. And as you know, like this year is the first of the 5-year period for this UN Secretary General Youth Priority Area. So now the UN's working on some priority products for the next 5 years to support youth. And then finally, this is just like some slides on outreach. So for example, now we've created like these younger tribes. So like if young people want to do a specific activity or a specific challenge badge, they can actually form a group. They can actually contact us, and then we give them a tribe number. And then as a tribe number, they can actually do their work, and then they'll be able to actually post it on like an interactive map, and like all the tribes will like start appearing on the map. And these are some of our Goodwill Ambassadors, which are helping us like support like outreach. So like if you think like just one of these people's like got like followers of like a few million, you can like with one tweet you can actually reach. So like what we normally do is like when we have a major publication that comes out, we get them to all tweet, so you get a nice distribution. And this is like this was Sweden, for example, where we actually did lots of the badges through workshops and so forth. This was like another initiative which just shows like engaging youth, what like a network you can get across the world. This was actually for like a Zero Hunger initiative, and like all the lines with all like the young people participating. So then we just got some examples showing like scouts and guides involved around the world So here we have Trinidad and Tobago, Canada, like Turkey, Australia. And this is like last one was Scouts in Italy. They set up a tent in front of the mayor's office to with specific actions to reduce your environmental impact, and they'll stop in all the people that are in the square and trying to get them to pledge to at least one thing that they would change in their lives. So, and this was based on their challenge, on the biodiversity challenge badge that they were doing. So this is the nice bit, is because they send you these things, you receive these emails of the things that they've been doing. That's the most satisfying part of the work. So we also this is sort of it's like interactive, the partnership. So we get a lot of help from our networks, on development, testing, and translating the challenge badges. So if you're interested, please let me know, and I'll involve you in the future ones. For example, the United Nations Global Citizenship Award is now reached pilot testing. So if that's something that interests you, we'd be very happy if you'd be interested in pilot that structure. We've just created tribes. If you're interested in creating tribes, we'd be very happy to send you let's say the manuals and so forth. And we've got 5 or 6 country initiatives, and we find them very effective, and we want to create more of them. So I already talked to someone from Tunisia, for example, just here today, and we're thinking of creating a Tunisia one. So if you're interested in country initiatives, we'll be interested to know. And then last slide is this: when you do your environmental work, you have to think of all areas of your environmental work. And this is quite an interesting one because it shows the impact of having a cat and a dog. So the dog's actually got a bigger impact than a large Jeep. So the actual article said if you want to be green, eat your dog. But I'm not telling you to eat your dog, but it's just it's good when you're doing these educational programs. Well, first to make it fun for the kids anyway, but also let them understand all the areas of their lifestyles that are affecting the environment. And then that's thanking. That's the email that you can write to if you want to be we have a list server. So if you write this email, we put you on a list server, and then you'll receive any new challenge badges or products, and so you'll get it automatically as an email. And that's it.
Thank you very much for the guest speakers and the presentation. And I think you have a very brief idea about the energy and environment. So that I think now this is your time to share your ideas, and please let us have your ideas. So shall we ask all the participants sit together, say 2, 3 into a group, form a bus group, and then say maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Let us to get your ideas, referring to all what you get. You see that in scouting, what we can do, as well as to cope with the issue, so that at the end we can share with ourselves. Is it any ideas or yeah?
Yes. So we have here some questions that will be the focus that we would like that you try to work as a group. We are going to do 2 groups. Okay. So the idea is you try to give us some inputs or some basic ideas that you think are the environmental issues one of the main topics in the educational process or your NSOs. So you can write barely, and we have this kind of programs, or we don't have at all. So we just need to have that kind of reference. So we will make divide it in 2 groups, and after that you will have around 10 minutes to share it and try to write it on. And at the end we just need that someone from each group has a small presentation. So because we want to make some of you famous, just be in the online. Okay. So I will count a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And after that, we would like to ask a number 1 to come over here, just to keep, the audience with something on the screen. Okay, So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. So number 1, please come over here. And number 2, you can stay over there. Are you ready? This group is ready? Group number 2. Okay. So I would like to ask the group number 1 and one person that wants to come here and just share the ideas that was being expressed in the discussion. And I need to come over here for, be famous and be connected around the world. Just group number 1, the number 2, sorry. Yes? Please come over here.
Nicole, you may help me.
Okay.
All right. Actually, we share some kind of, experience and also my wish list. Actually, the first would be my wish list. And I think, we should make use of the Scouts, power to, do the youth influence in the peer groups because, we understand that youth, listen to youth idea rather than, listen to the adults because that would be preaching. They don't want to hear that, right? And also, we want to make use of the Scouts action to do something in the community as well as in the family because, I'm sure the parents, would love their kids to go to Scouts and learn something and then come back and share with us and share in the community. And that's the reason that they send their boys and girls to go to the Scouts, right? And there are some successful experience, shared in the group, and they're saying that, recycling of, collecting a battery and old mobile device, and that is really good because everybody now has at least one electronic gadgets, at home or by themselves. And also the solid waste management, recycle. This is a very good experience in Taiwan. And I was just talking about, 10 years before when I was working in Taiwan, I always complained that I couldn't find rubbish bins on the street. And now I understand that it is our responsibility to take care of our own garbage and see, Taiwan is much cleaner than Hong Kong because we can see a lot of garbage bin on Hong Kong streets, but I don't see people are responsible, for their own garbage, right? And the other thing is, one of our group members saying that they clean up the drive-by Scout starting from home, at a school, and in the community. And also, this is one of our WWF initiative. We just launched the second phase of the Sustainable Seafood Guide. And we would like to, educate the youth to eat smart, starting from the seafood, because, Hong Kong people as well as Asian people love eating seafood, but a lot of seafoods are, almost gone. So we really have to eat wise and take it as an example because I found that the UN's, Food and Nutrition Program is very interesting. Not only the nutrition, but also the way how to handle your foods and also how to handle, the cooking, everything. And it's a really smart program. And the Earth Hour actually is a global initiative. It's done, every March in most of the countries in the world as well as in Hong Kong. And switching off your light for an hour is just a gesture. But we would like to, have the Scouts to, practice it, educate the community, and, bring this concept to everybody and to practice it at home and make it, a sustainable way. And the other way is, water recycling. One of our members saying that, they're encouraging people to collect the rainforest from their home. And because Hong Kong is so, privileged that we can buy water, but it is not a good way. But, encouraging people to, make use of the used water or even collecting, water would be a really good initiative. is on the other side. Oops. And also, the Taiwan representative told us that, in Taiwan, they have to pay quite a lot for the garbage bag. And because, everybody has to be very responsible for categorize their own garbage in order to, properly treat the garbage. And the other thing is, I just share with, people saying, they're asking, whether Hong Kong has the categorizing of the garbage. We don't have it right now, but the government is, talking about how to charge it and how to implement it. But my idea is, this has to be done as early as possible, but the focus has to be right. And right now, the Hong Kong government is saying a lot of, how to implement it, how to charge it fairly, but the focus is not right. It should be educate everybody the advantage of doing so. And the right policy of the government is very important in order to, implement the right program for sustainability, energy saving, and this kind of things. And also, a lot of kids are talking about they learned how to, live on a sustainable way, but they are facing the problems at home because the mom and dad saying that it can be very troublesome. And that's why we need education to the parents as well. Okay?
Thank you for group 2. And how about group 1?
Sorry, that's our style. Okay, so actually for our group it's more intellectual because quite a lot of our participants come from all around the world. So we use some time to share our experience in doing the environmental related project. And some of the themes that could be a good reference. We do have a Sri Lanka case that they're working with the government on how to saving energy and promote the sustainable energy to the youth, to the Scout. And the other things is from Luxembourg. Luxembourg, and talking about they have a program that promoting fair trade and also promoting eating local food so that you can reduce the food mileage. And the other one is from Hong Kong. They also have a lot of environmental related program, especially talking about the camping, how to reduce your footprint when you taking Scout out to do the outdoor program. And that is the key activities that we have been discussed. And then we go to the topic that we would like to have some suggestion that what we can do, Scout can do in the future to develop the environmental related project. We're talking from the global aspect down to the local aspect. For the global one, one of the suggestions is talking about that there may be some national program that could provide a good guideline for the local program. And in between, there could be some regional initiative. Then we can focus on particular theme. For example, like Asia Pacific, we have some similar culture. Then we may have some theme that we can share together and then work it as a regional initiative. So, and also can share the synergy among the regional Scout association. So, of course, have to integrate the history background and the uniqueness of the Scout cultures. And the other suggestion that is talking about think globally, act locally. It will be very impactful for the Scout leader to have some project like taking your Scout to see the real things. For example, like living in Hong Kong, it's very difficult for us to understand the impact of climate change. But why not we take them to Philippines? The sea level wise, why it has really impact people's daily life, and it's quite close to us. And compared to taking them to see Europe, then can reduce the footprint, carbon footprint. So those program is really a lifetime experience for the Scouts, and that can be very impactful. One more suggestion is when we design our program, a lot of the existing program, we sometimes very focusing in deliver the activities themselves and also knowledge enrichment. But we also have to consider to integrate one important part is help our Scout or the youth to take real action. So go beyond just talking about the knowledge and activities, but we provide some activities that of opportunity for them to really help to adopt a sustainable lifestyle. So the last one is talking about the partnership. Scout got very good outreach and a number of the Scout globally. But, you know, talking about the environmental issue sometimes is too knowledgeable or the information is too difficult to understand for layman person. And that will be good for Scout to partnership with some of those international organizations like UN, FAO, or like WWF or Greenpeace, because they got a lot of scientists working as an expert, but that expert, sometimes the content may be too difficult for kids to understand that. So, and also for those organizations, they have also the other expert, like the educator. They can help you to translate the complicated information into something fun, fat, attractive information that can really share with the kids and or even for the youth leader. So that may be some things that the Scout in the coming years can think about it and develop it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole and Betty. Thank you so much for your report.
Well, I think this is a very valuable information, very practical information, very pointed, very focused, and I really appreciate that the job that you has been doing here. We are almost finished. I just want to share with you 2 last videos, and after that we will conclude the session. It's 2 videos about the reflection that is related. That's everything that we have been talking until now.
2012 is when leaders and citizens come together to put the world on a new path, a path to a sustainable future for our planet, to ensure that social inclusion, economic growth, and a clean and secure environment go hand in hand, to go beyond economic wealth as the only measure of progress. Sustainable development means meeting the needs of today and ensuring we can meet those of generations to come. Lifting people out of poverty while protecting the planet's resources. It means equal opportunity, decent jobs, safe drinking water, sufficient food, quality healthcare, and education. Access to energy for all. Sustainable human development means a more secure world. This is the future we want.
And the last one is the message from Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and is related about energy.
Energy is one of the biggest challenges we face. It is central to reducing poverty and stopping climate change. We face a paradox. Too much energy is wasted, but millions of people do not have access to modern or clean sources. That is why I launched the Sustainable Energy for All initiative last year. We need to become cleaner and more efficient in how we consume energy. We can all play a part.
I think it's very clear. And I just want to share with you this message that I take from one of the books from Baden-Powell. Say like, God has given us a world to live in that is full of beauties and wonders, and He has